Thank you for taking the time to chat with me. Uh, I'm happy that we're doing this after our first encounter on a rainy and cold day in Fab.
Cold for
Actually,
you.
yeah, actually cold by our Mediterranean standards. So I remember you were in a t-shirt. So how have you been?
Good, good. Thanks for having me, Fadi. I always enjoy meeting new people, new entrepreneurs, new engineers. This is great.
Thank you. And it was that conversation, that triggered this fireside chat. I thought we had lots of interesting things to elaborate on. So yeah, let's start off. So from your journey that started before the year 2000, and maybe many of the audience were not even born yet. So yeah, tell me, since 1919, you be to Toronto in 2025, and in between, so many startups, so many exits, so many successes, maybe some failures too. In a
More
nutshell,
failures, but anyway, sorry.
yeah, this is humble you. So yeah, tell me more about this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I finished my engineering degree in '99, and that back then in Lebanon, at least, you had to do your military service. So I wanted to do it. I did it. It was a good learning experience, and then I went to Dubai for my first job. And within 3 months of 3 or 4 months of starting there, some troubles started to happen. Not sure if I mean you should be aware of the dot com crash. I was working for an online company that did warehouse management software, and almost overnight it disappeared. It was really fascinating lesson for a a young, eager, idealistic person to see how quickly companies disappear. From going to 1,000 person company across the Middle East to zero overnight.
Wow.
Anyway, I was in Dubai, new kid, didn't know what to do. I worked for a couple of Saudi customers. We built a couple of warehouse logistic stuff. And I remember not knowing what to do with my career. Like I was so lost and, just stumbled with a couple of friends on, uh, on someone who was just building more warehouse and logistic stuff for the Saudi market. We told him what we did, and we ended up starting a company together. That was the first company I worked at that got acquired by another Saudi company that put some money in my pocket. A couple of things happened in Saudi Arabia. It wasn't very stable geopolitically back then. This 2003 at
Mhm.
this point. So I decided to come back to Lebanon and helped another friend, continue his company. But also some geopolitical stuff happened. Let's just put it that way. And I decided I'm done with the Middle East. I couldn't take the corruption. I couldn't stomach that the only way to make a deal was to know people and quite bluntly bribe them. At least that's how it was back in early 2000. So I came to Canada, immigrated, landed here again, fresh off the boat, as they call them, and didn't know what to
Mhm.
do. So decided to do a master's just to build a network. Wanted to build a company, tried to get funding back in 2006, 2005. It was impossible for a fresh immigrant to do so back then. So I ended up in management consulting for 2 years just to, build my resume, as they used to call it. So did that, and then some joker at the management consulting firm after a year and a half figured out I speak Arabic, and they sent me back to Saudi Arabia. And I'm like, you know what? This is
Yeah.
probably a good signal for me to quit and start my job. Nothing against Saudi Arabia, but back then, I didn't want to come back to where I was actively running away from. So at that point, I had the resume. I was able to raise money for my first um, independent venture. It was called Verold. I was a big gamer back then and building some games of my own. And one of the problems was how do you build 3D models quickly to be able to build a game? So Verold was basically a 3D engine in a browser. That company, did well in spurts and bursts, and not so well in other areas. And in the end, as my cash was running out, we got acquired by Box. That put some more money in my pocket to go start another company. A friend of mine was wanting to automate some tourism software, helped him build a team and the engineering to do that. It was a spin in. I got bought out, decided to just, why not go to start a company in China. That was an absolute and utter failure, but a ton of learnings. Came
Wow.
back to Toronto. Yeah, started another company doing basically software that allows you to read micro expressions in meetings and interviews and stuff like that to help you become a better communicator. That got nowhere very quickly, and then that went back to industry and ended up starting my current company, Baselane, where we're basically a financial management and banking software focused on real estate investment.
Okay, and yeah, just on the China thing, why China?
Why not, right? Like it was an opportunity. A friend of mine was starting a company. He needed a technical co-founder, and he asked me, "Hey, can you come and help?" And I love traveling. I love scuba diving in different areas of the world. I love learning new languages, new cultures, meeting new people. And when an opportunity like that comes, there wasn't much thinking. It was like, cool, this is awesome. Let's go try it. So, jump in. And I like, whether China or not China, I like to move to failure very quickly. That's my
Mm.
number one principle in doing anything. Push to failure as quick as possible. And if you can't find it quick enough, you're probably onto something. So in the China example, I pushed to failure and it failed really quickly within 4 months. So that was a cool experience. Learned a ton, but it unfortunately flamed out.
Yeah, it's always a learning when we fail, and I like this.
100%.
I mean, I definitely hear more failures in your speech than successes, and I think that this reflects in your, lifelong learning attitude, which is, yeah, just learn something new every day, learn from every failure, become the
100%.
better you.
Yeah, I mean, not to delve too much into philosophy, but the philosophy of failure for me is far more exciting than the philosophy of success. If you succeed, it could be because you're lucky, you were in the right place at the right time, you met the right people. There's so many factors to success, and most of them are outside of your control. And
Mm,
what are
mm,
you learning from it? But if you fail, usually it's because you made a mistake. And mistakes are beautiful because you can just look at it. Okay, what did I do here? What can I learn from it? How can I grow from it? And then you move on. Um, I don't
The
know how
good,
many people, sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, I don't know how many people know Arabic, but there's, everybody knows Gibran. And one of his lines stuck a chord with me. I to paraphrase, but it's يا خيبتي يا خيبتي ما أجمل ما أج شو ما أجمل من ألف انتصار or something like this. Because you learn from it, and that has always stuck with me in my career.
Yeah, but I mean, this is in hindsight, when you make that mistake, you're devastated. But in
I
hindsight,
don't know,
okay,
man. You've got. I've seen a lot of people make mistakes, and then they say, "Oh, it's not my fault," and then they go on and make the same
oh,
one. Right? There has to be an attitude to learning with mistakes. Yeah, you're
yeah,
disappointed, but what did I learn from this is really
yeah.
critical.
And the baseline, coming to baseline. So, does that come from a personal need? You might also want to explain what baseline is about. Was it your personal experience as a landlord? Tell
Yeah.
me why this industry, why this segment?
Yeah, all my startups have been from personal pains.
Okay.
From the first one to the current one. The current one is very simple. I was we had a starter home when we first came to Canada. A small 3-bedroom house, what they call a semi. So it's a house split in half. You share it with someone
Mm,
else. And our kids were growing up. We wanted a bigger house, and we were in a place we could afford it. And we decided to just rent out the older house and keep and keep it and rent it out as an investment. And very quickly, I learned the painful lesson that home ownership is not just about finding a tenant and collecting your rent. I was ready and willing to go repair it, change light bulbs, change plumbing, do all that, no problem. But the painful thing that hit me really hard was I was doing hours of Excel sheet every month. I
Wow.
couldn't even, it took me around 12 hours of work, no exaggeration, 12 hours of Excel work to figure out if I was even cash flow, what my cash flow position was, like if I was generating cash or losing cash. And it's absurd because if you go invest, if you buy one stock, you can tell right away how your investment's doing. But if you buy a house, you go rent it out.
Yeah.
It's hectic, and it's Excel and it's CPA and it's accounting, and just to figure out if your cash flow, even to figure out how your investment is doing and so on. So we built a company to basically Baselane just automates all of that. And then we realized in automating the finances, why don't we also do all banking that's focused on the real estate investor, focused on the landlord? So we ended up building a bank, and a financial management platform focused on that, on that niche. And there's, just in Canada and the US, there's about 20 million landlords and real estate investors, and all of them are struggling with the same problem. And they either do Excel or they go pay someone else a lot of money to do it on their
Mm,
behalf, like
mm,
financial
mm.
management. So we automate all of this.
Okay. And I know you've earned an MBA, but going through all these startup successes and failures, and I mean, today, do you think it added some value? Is it something that you would recommend to someone? I mean, I have a hard take maybe on MBAs because I think you
They're
have to.
garbage.
I mean, you have to get your hands dirty to
No, man.
know.
I'm probably in the same camp as you are. The only reason I did my MBA, and I also did a minor in economics next to it because it was so boring. The only reason I did my MBA was because I needed a network. I was a fresh immigrant in a fresh country. I landed literally on in May, and schools were about to start. It was too late to get accepted into any master's program that could have been more beneficial for from learning point of view. During the MBA, as an engineer, it was a joke. It still is. I think you can learn your MBA online in 10 days. I learned nothing. But what I did get was a great network. What I did get was meeting a lot of great professors who mentored me. What I did get was meeting a lot of really awesome people who've been part of my career as I continued to grow. So is the learning in an MBA worth it? Absolutely not. Would I do it again? Absolutely, I would, because of the network I got,
Hmm.
because it opened up a lot of doors for me that would not have opened up to a new Arab immigrant in North America.
Yeah.
Everybody's circumstance is different. If you're Lebanese and you want to do an MBA, I'd say no. Go get an internship at a startup. You'll probably break even way faster than sinking money in MBA. But if you're using it as a stepping stone to something else, it's absolutely worth a consideration.
Yeah. Totally right. I actually did my PhD in that same context. I was in France, and I wasn't ready to get into the job market. And okay, I said maybe this is halfway between where I stand today and where I should be. So yeah, I like we have something, an additional something in common. So. And speaking of this, leap from a very technical person, and you still are, but for junior software engineers or even senior software engineers who are sitting right now listening to us and saying, "Okay, how can I become a founder?" You know, what would be one piece of advice that you would give them?
Stop thinking honestly and just do it. What's the cost of becoming a founder? In today, the cost is almost negligible.
Mhm.
Becoming a founder necessitates two things. The first is something to build, right? And if you're a technical co-founder, you're the builder. Like you're the rare side of the equation when it comes to founding a company. It's harder to find people to build with, and so you need something to build, and you need someone to use it. Those are the only two things you need to start a company. And in figuring out something to build, you already have that skill set. What's stopping you? And in finding someone to use it, you already have those people around you. Again, what's stopping you? I find a lot of first time founders, especially engineers, they overthink things. Like, I need to get it perfect before I give it to someone. I need to make it great before I can go publish it. Or how am I going to publish it? How am I going to find users? What if they tell me they don't like it? How will I live with myself? Dude, stop thinking. Just go
Do
do
it.
it. Just iterate. The most powerful concept in startups, in entrepreneurship, is iteration. This is probably the one lesson that a lot of people get wrong in understanding agile philosophy. Just go do iteration zero. What have you learned from iteration zero? Put them in iteration one. What have you learned from iteration one? Put them in iteration two. And it's that 1% marginal improvement. And if you compile it and you compound it, you get somewhere. I mean, it's Albert Einstein who said the most powerful force in the universe is compounding interest. It's right. Apply that also to whatever you're building. Stop thinking of perfection. Just do iteration zero. Iteration zero can be a sketch on a napkin, can be a PowerPoint presentation, can be working code. It can be whatever you want. Go learn from it. Iteration one, iteration two, iteration three. By the time you're at iteration 10, you have something that's working. And guess what? Most founders want to start at iteration 10, and that's impossible. You can't. You're never going to succeed if you want to start at iteration 10 and not learn all the while from the other ones, right? So my advice to any founder is go try something, and if it fails, that's great. Who cares? You've learned something that you can go apply on iteration one, and if that fails, you learn something that you can apply in iteration two, and et cetera, et cetera. And before you know it, you know how to build working code. You know how to find people. You know how to talk to them. All of these things take practice. And if you don't do that practice now, when are you going to do it? Right. So that's my one and only advice.
Yeah, speaking of iteration zero, and I know I'm going to provoke you with this, but now with vibe coding, you might get to your first iteration quickly. But we leave this topic to a bit later in the conversation. So, going back to the technical aspect of things, um, I mean, you have built software and scaled products to hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of users. So, what is it? What are the key considerations to scale a software? I mean, if you were to name two or three considerations, how should we build scalable software?
Again, in iterations. So let's take Baselane for example. So today we're pushing 100,000 users. I'd say concurrently, at peak runtime, beginning of the month, we probably have 10,000 users online on the platform at the
Wow.
same time. So the first year, almost the first year and a half, it was all on headless servers. We built Lambda functions for all the things we needed to do. We had a basic SNS queue that's just throwing, from service to service, and the services were just talking to each other directly in some cases, or through the queue in other cases, depending. And that was good enough. We just needed we just needed to cater for 100 users. Again, go to iterations and learn from it. And then the next iteration was like, okay, what do we need to do now? Well, now it's time to build actual services. So let's build an EC2, put the services there. And they were running fine, great. Okay, now the communication between the services is broken. So now we need to, put some kind of event driven architecture in there. Okay, you know, you put a Kafka pipeline and you learn your lessons, and then you have your events publishing and reading, and you scale bit by bit. And now we're at a point, if you look at our architecture, it's extremely robust. It's we've got, I don't know, maybe around 25 services talking to a pretty large Kafka pipeline, dumping all our data into a Snowflake so that we can do all sorts of data analytics on it. We've got our production DB. We can back up and restore everything in half an hour. But if we tried to build this from day zero, it would be absurdly and profoundly stupid to do so. We we didn't have the users to justify it. We would have spent 99% of our engineering time building infrastructure and not building usable code, right? In everything that we do, what is the least amount of effort that I need to get from iteration 0 to iteration 1? Building scalable architecture doesn't even enter the equation until it becomes a problem. And when it becomes a problem, like building scalable architecture, is nothing. We are not the first, nor the hundredth, nor the 10,000th company in the world to go from 100 users to 10,000 users. This is a well-known, well-solved problem. And if you need help, you go to AWS, you go to Azure, you go to GCP, you go to any of these cloud providers, you ask for a solution architect, and they'll come help you if you don't know how to do this. But no one will help you get your first 100 user. No one will help you get your first 1,000 user. You need to do that, and that's where the focus needs to go.
And that's obviously a nice problem to have, when when you have to scale. So that's
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And I still remember some of our users early on, complaining, "Oh, it took me 3 seconds to load this page." Dude, that's amazing. I love that now our services are so swamped that it took you 3 seconds to load the page. Hang on there, next iteration or the next sprint or two, like in a month, you're going to get something in a load in half a second because now we've done some load balancing, or we refactored a service or whatever. But it's way better than that user not even having that service to be able to use, or not having that page. I'd much rather pump out more and see what sticks and what users are using than pump out less that is higher grade, that is more perfect. That trap of perfection, man, is a startup killer.
sure. I've seen some, startups planning for tens of microservices, whereas they only have maybe tens of users. So yeah,
Absurd, man.
definitely.
Absurd. It's just absurd. I don't it's just absurd. And this is the engineering trap, right? We want to build the better mousetrap, but my God, man, go find the mice first.
So, do you have? I mean, I get asked this question a lot. What programming language should I learn? And obviously, for Lebanese engineers, my answer is always English. And now Jensen Huang wants us to learn English because this is the future of coding, and we're gonna get there. Jad. Don't get impatient. So, any preferences in your tech stack? Do you have, I mean, personal, or actually, does it matter at all?
No, it does not matter one tiny little bit. I've been coding in C++ for what, 20 years? And even now, if I stop for 3 months, I forget half the syntax, right? And I need to go look at old examples, or remember even how to use a pointer, man. Sometimes I forget, right? The other day, I was trying to build a binary tree search function. And I forgot completely how to do it, even though I've done it 20 times in the last 10 years. Coding does not matter. What matters is three things. Do you have a problem? Can you learn from your iteration? And can you find a user to go test it? That's it. Pseudocode, just write it. You've got tons of tools, from AI and non-AI tools, to help you with the syntax, to help you with the language. And you know what? If you reach a point where you need to scale and you don't know something, go hire that person. Go get help. Like I said, you can go to almost anything right now and find it online, from solution architecting to coding samples. The biggest thing about coding is you've got to get working code. You've got to put it in someone else's hand. And as anybody who knows has written commercial software, the actual writing, the code part, is less than 20% of the effort,
Yeah.
right? I've written, I don't know how many products I've written by hand, and the majority of the struggle is defining the problem set, defining the solution set and the business criteria I'm trying to solve, defining the deployment strategy, debugging my code, right? That iteration that we're talking about. The actual writing the code part has never been a problem at all in my career. And I bet that's the same for almost any developer, whether how good or bad they are. And if you want to optimize, like, let's say, oh, but Jad, I wrote C and it's not well optimized or not well written. Sure, fine. What are you optimizing against? You're trying to make it run 10% faster. But again, you need that business problem to make it run 100% before you can optimize it by 10%. So always the ethos is focus on the problem, focus on the solution. Don't focus on the optimization. And learning the syntax in depth is just optimization at that point.
Okay, so you're leaning towards delegating this part to AI because I mean I totally
Sure.
agree that
Sure.
coding,
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, coding is only a small, I won't say a small, but a moderate part of a software engineer's work. You know,
Yes.
it's really about problem solving, defining the right architecture, seeing the bigger picture. So,
Yes.
can we agree that we can delegate coding, or we can start delegating coding to AI while being supervised by a real software engineer?
No. And I'll tell you why. There's two problems with your statement. The first is in delegating coding, you're delegating the understanding of the coding as well, the structure of it. And as I tried to describe to you, a big part of writing code is debugging it. The moment you don't understand your code base anymore, you cannot understand how to debug it. And if you let the AI write your code base, how are you going to even begin approaching debugging it? AI can't make decisions on debugging today. Still not there. And I don't think it will be there because for maybe a long time. But let's put the where AI will go in the future on the side. But today AI cannot debug your code. It can write code for you. Hey, you can prompt it. Look, I want to write a binary search function. Great. It can write it for you. No problem. But writing a binary search function is not business context. You want to say, I want to build a search function where I have 50 items in my inventory, and I want to see which item I should pick from my warehouse to ship it based on its proximity to the door, right? An AI can probably build that for you if you prompt it well enough. But now let's say that your warehouse structure changed, or the program didn't work exactly as you wanted to, because the moment you put it there, your human that's going to pick the stuff off the shelf, they couldn't reach it because you didn't factor that in, and you don't have a forklift or whatever, or the forklift broke down that day and you need something else that's lower on a lower shelf deeper in the warehouse. So debugging that code becomes a problem. The AI doesn't know what you're doing, so you need to prompt it to rewrite it. And if you go try to debug code that AI has written, you don't understand how that code works. So if we completely delegate the AI to coding, we need to, by necessity, delegate the debugging. And if you delegate the debugging, you're delegating the entire iteration. So what how are you a human anymore? You're not writing production code anymore. So where I think AI can help in coding, and where I've seen it help, is I forgot how to write a binary search function. Great, I'll help you do that. I forgot how to I don't know, whatever it is. Great, it'll help you do that. Or you wrote code. Hey, you know what, you may have some memory issues down the line because an AI can see the pattern that's happening. But in terms of writing your code, if you don't understand it, you can't debug it. And that's why I'm super against AI in writing code, because otherwise you'll just have engineers who, what are you doing at that point? What are you problem solving? How are you debugging? How are you going from iteration zero to iteration one, from iteration one to iteration two, if you don't understand the code you're writing?
Yeah, when I said delegating coding, I meant, not giving the very high level uh, piece of work and say, okay, go figure it out. Go to the lower levels with AI, telling them, okay, I want to, let's say, uh, create a dark mode for this interface. So you would guide AI into how you believe dark mode should work. And so it's not just get me dark mode out there. It's really I want to create a dark mode interface. So this is how I usually do it. I create a class with this specific properties. I want to do this, and then so you instruct it, and with small chunks of work. Would that make more sense? Because you would be
Absolutely.
seeing what's
Absolutely.
happening.
And that's absolutely fine. Again, there's I let's align on this. AI is super helpful for things that are routine, that are rote, that you forget. and no problem. But where AI will not scale is writing working code, right?
today.
Things that you put in the hands of the user end to end. That's where I think there's a big fallacy. There's a lot of wasted effort. Like the other day, I was mentoring this company. They it's a group of accountants who automate accounting. You know,
Okay.
you just put your receipts and it creates a balance sheet for you. Amazing software. Great. They have been doing it manually, and they promise their investors and their users they're going to automate all of this and make it AI based. Amazing. I love it. So right now what they're doing is they're just taking the receipts, dumping it into an LLM, and then spitting out a balance sheet from that. And they now want to automate all of this process, receipt upload, and Excel extraction of a balance sheet. And they were telling me they want to write the code all AI based. And you know, they're a group of 6 accountants. None of them knows how to code, and they're all just prompting Chat GPT or whatever. I forgot what tool they're using, but they're just using prompts to build the actual working software. That's great. I love it, but it's never going to work.
Mm.
And here's why. Because when you deploy your working software, you're deploying it against multiple browsers, you're deploying it with users who probably will break your software, you're deploying it with 100 things that you don't know yet what is going to work and what is not going to work. And you can't prompt for it unless you test it, unless you do it. We go back to the debugging. So when they can build their iteration zero with AI, no problem. But when they go test it, they have no idea how to go from 0 to 1.
Mm, mm.
And that's, we go back to, if you want to go from 0 to 1, you still need critical thinking skills. And AI still does not have that critical thinking skills. So you still need the human in the loop. Am
You
I
know,
making sense?
yeah, please go ahead.
No, am I making sense? Like you need,
Yes,
if you don't have the critical thinking skill,
sure.
you're not going from iteration 0 to 1. And that is all what company building is about.
We're totally on the same page. It's just that I've learned to add the word today when speaking about AI, because man, the pace is so fast. So I'm gonna say, yeah, AI cannot deliver production level code today, but I mean today because we don't know what will happen in a year. Man, agentic AI was something
Listen,
like,
let me tell you this. If, and this is, I think, less than a 1% chance, if AI can deliver production level code, we're done as a species. We're done. There's zero doubt about it. Because the iteration from 0 to 1, if you can build production code and iterate from 0 to 1, a human needs weeks to iterate from 0 to 1. A machine will take milliseconds to iterate from 0 to 1. So the exponential explosion is going to be massive. But here's the thing: AI is not software. AI is hardware, and hardware cycles take years to improve. We're already, like Sam Altman the other day was saying, it cost them millions of dollars just to say please and
please.
thank you. At GPT, why? Because the hardware that is running everything needs to parse the please and thank you, right? So you can't iterate software without hardware. If you add more data to the model, maybe you can get better. But we're out of data for training these models. We're already seeing hallucination because AI is feeding itself now recursively. We're already seeing massive hallucinations. And the hardware is going to take years, if not decades, to improve. And now with all the trade wars that are happening and the tariff wars and all that stuff, it's going to take even longer. But the moment AI can iterate on the software hardware cycle, we're done. And we're not going to get production level code from the software iteration. You need to iterate significantly on the hardware side. You need to bring down the costs by multiple magnitudes of order on the hardware side before you can have AI that can think critically enough to build production level stuff.
But you know, on the hardware side, I don't believe. I mean, everyone is chasing AGI, and it's always the more the better. We need to have bigger models. We need to have more GPUs. But you know, maybe future AI coders will be small language models that are really tailored just for this task. And in that case, you might not need that huge hardware anymore because it would be specialized, focusing on one. I don't want them to write a poem. I just want them to code. And this is I think this is a direction that is a bit overlooked because foundational model companies are chasing AGI and they want bigger models. But if you go and focus on an agent that is only about coding, you can go for smaller models.
Yeah, you know what? This is where we become if and maybe and philosophy and all that. I vehemently disagree. This is where we're headed. Smaller models have been around since the 60s. I mean, if you look at how AI has come and gone, it's always been these waves. I mean, I remember in the 80s there was a big AI wave. In the 90s there was a big AI wave. In 2000 there was a big one. 2010 there was a big one. There's always these waves come and go. Small models may work, may not work. The jury is still out. Already with big LLMs, we see with what's it called, RAG models. You can build a
Mm,
smaller model in front of it.
yeah.
Like this stuff is already getting optimized to death, right? We I have, let's put it this way. I'm not an AI expert. I'm an expert in using AI tools, not in building them. And from what I've seen, the AI tools that are currently in the market today, they're great at routine rote tasks. They're great at data searches, which is why Google is terrified and why their stock
Mm,
is crashing, because search is going to be taken over by AI 100%, right?
yeah.
But in terms of critical thinking, these small data models are not going to become better critical thinkers than you. If they're smaller, they're not going to be able to go from the 0 to 1. Maybe they can find a faster way to optimize your n log n problem, and they can make it, the time or space consideration smaller. Maybe, but are they going to be able to go from iteration 0 to 1 with real live users? Not a fat chance. I don't see the tools on the market accomplishing anything like that. Every single AI startup that I have seen, every single AI agent that I have seen, have succeeded because they're small, because they are solving a very specific, simple business problem. Not because they're complex, not because they're smart, not because they can iterate, but they're just super focused on one small business problem.
Mm.
And they cannot, they cannot scale from there. So if you have 10 agents that are each one solving one small business problem, we haven't yet found a way to make all those 10 agents work together. The technology just doesn't exist. And even if it
Okay.
does scale, the cost is astronomical at this point that it's unaffordable. So will small models win? Sure, maybe, but we still have the massive hardware problem that nobody's really talking about. We still have the massive costs that nobody's really talking about. And these things are not going to be able to critically think their way out of a shoebox, let alone be able to replace developers.
Yes. I mean, this also reminds me of Yann LeCun, Meta's chief scientist, AI scientist, who compares AI to, he says that it's even more stupid than a rat today. Which is, I mean, AI is only spitting out text; it's not thinking. But we never know what might happen. And actually, what I'm worried about is the impact of AI on junior roles and students or entry level people who join a company and they want to use AI. And I draw an analogy with the calculator. So it was introduced in classrooms, and at that point there were protests against this because children should be able to do mental calculations. And so now I do agree that at some point the coding or the real syntax part of it is going to be a very low level, like assembly today. It's going to be a low level thing. No one will care about anymore. We will be dealing with higher level languages, but they should know the foundation of software engineering. And I'm wondering if the resolution to this problem is really in the education system, which unfortunately uh, evolves at very slow pace. But ideally, I mean, teach those people not the syntax, but really software engineering, the foundations of it. And then when they go into a team, they can use AI because they know how to steer it and how to build products. What's your take on this?
Look, if we look at the evolution of software engineering, right? I mean, some of the highest paid engineers today are the ones who write in assembly and build compilers and assemblers. They make millions of bucks a year,
Yeah.
literally. And then you have the next level, the ones that write business logic, and they can make anywhere from hundreds of thousands to multiple hundreds of thousands a year. We're talking North American average salaries,
Yeah.
right? And then you've got the next level of people who you're the vast number of engineers who just write basic low level stuff. So the pattern over the years is already established. The deeper you get into the stack, the more you're going to get paid. Why? Because the deeper you get into the stack, the less people there are who are even capable of understanding that. And we're going to get that. I agree with you. Unfortunately, we are going to reach a level, or fortunately, I don't know what you want to say, but we are going to reach a level where most software engineers don't know how to code, have never coded, don't understand code structure, don't understand code syntax. And you will have a separation. You'll have really highly paid engineers who do understand code syntax, who will come in and debug the code that was written by the more, let's call it, junior engineer, right, or the prompt engineer, as the fad is today. And we're going to see that separation in salaries. And if you look at any engineer today, most fresh graduates, I, for example, do not hire fresh graduates at my startups. It's just unbelievable amount of time to take
Mm.
them from, okay, yeah, you're a fresh engineer, to an engineer that can actually code. Because yes, engineering is a way of thinking, sure, but writing production level code is an entirely different beast. Are universities going to teach that? Never, not in a million years. And even if they do, I wouldn't hire those people. And I'll tell you why. Because things change so rapidly in writing production level code. If you want to become a better coder, learn three things: learn critical skills, learn how to think, which is surprisingly a skill not a lot of people have. Learn how to break down a problem, learn how to build a solution, learn how to go learn. The second thing you need to do is learn how to collaborate, because 99.9999999% of engineers are never going to code alone. You're going to code with someone else, someone whom you may hate, someone whom you may not like, someone who's smelly, but you still need to learn from, someone who's going to be super arrogant, but you need to figure out how to get the most out of them, someone who just doesn't know how to communicate. You must learn how to communicate. And that is the number one skill that is going to just boost your trajectory. So learning how to think, learning how to communicate, and the last one is learning how to learn and learning how to unlearn. And what I mean by that is technology moves so fast, man. Let's say school teaches you how to code this algorithm or this C++ thing or whatever. And then if you go take that into the industry, that is the hardest thing, because I'm trying to unteach these people what some professor taught them, that professor learned 20 years ago and is still applying today. But we don't write classes like that anymore. We don't do inheritance. We use functional programming. We don't do this. We don't use OOP anymore. But those are the things I was taught. So if I go apply the skills that I know that I learned from school, I'm a dinosaur,
Yeah.
right? So learning how to learn new stuff, learning how to learn new Copilot stuff, that's what's going to make you a great career. So we go back to the basics, you know, learning how to learn, learning how to think, and learning how to collaborate and communicate. You master those three things, no matter what comes, no matter how AI changes, no matter what happens, you're
You're
going
right.
to be successful. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Maybe not at the beginning, but you'll be successful. Most engineers I see, they come into the company, they go sit in a corner and they try not to be visible. Like, man, why? Go learn. Go be a problem. Go grab, do a pull request and read the code. Go ask, why was this function written that way? Go be inquisitive, be curious, think. There's a new problem. I see a lot of new engineers. They wait until somebody assigns them a task. Like, why? Just go grab stuff and
Mm-hmm.
do it. Somebody doesn't assign a ticket for you, just it's okay. Someone else has it. Go do it and show them your code and learn. Be proactive. And man, you can tell right away. Proactive engineers, man, within 2 3 years, they're making the big bucks. Engineers who just want to coast and lowest effort possible, unfortunately, that's the vast majority of people. You're not going to have a great career, whether it's AI driven or not AI driven. Is it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I want to touch base on one more. Maybe we have time for two more topics. One of them is, coding with security in mind. So, any best practices, any specific considerations in terms of security uh, in your teams?
Yeah, I mean the two golden rules, right? Encrypt everything at rest and encrypt everything in transit. And if you follow those, you're gonna be good. There's also the OWASP principles. Try to follow them at all times. And if you do those two things, encrypt everything and follow OWASP, make sure everything is also patched and stuff like that, you'll be fine. But let me tell you a story. Like we're a bank. We move people's money. And one time when we were actually refactoring from service to first service communication and putting our Kafka pipeline, um, we're all security, and I always tell the team security first and everything. But one time we were refactoring the Kafka pipe, and the team was just playing with it. We were just playing with it on a development branch, no
Mm,
problem. Completely hidden. Everything is behind a VPC, like a private net. Nobody can talk to that branch except whoever was on a dedicated VPN. And I'm cycling, and I remember I was picking up my son from school on the bicycle, and I get a call from Plaid's CTO, right? Like, here's me, this rinky dinky nobody startup. And I answer the call. He's like, "Hi," I forgot his name. Uh, anyway, but he's like, "I'm the CTO at Plaid, um, and you guys have a data leak, and we're gonna shut you off the Plaid network." I'm like, "Dude, what the fuck? Like, no, please don't." He's like, "Yeah, you've got an hour to fix it, otherwise you guys are done, and then we'll debug what happened." Man, I was panic mode. Like, I left my son at school. I called. Like, I was cycling, but man, it was just you know. And I call one of my engineers. I'm like, "Dude, I'm not at a laptop. I got this call. What's happening?" And it turns out a junior engineer we hired, we were playing we were playing with the Kafka data because we were just rolling out Kafka. We wanted to debug the messages inside the Kafka bus
yeah.
without consuming the message. And this guy found a tool online, an open source tool. He thought it was secure. He connected it, but he didn't realize that the open source tool had a public IP where anybody can look into the what's not
Wow.
just him, but anybody can look into the messages. And we were using light plat tokens for inside the message. And somehow a security researcher had some kind of sniffer, like if you find an at plaid token, whatever structure, it rings a bell. So the security researcher tried to contact us, but we're a small rinky-dinky company, and this is lesson number 3 that I'm getting to security. So he contacted Plaid. It escalated very quickly, reached the CTO. CTO called me. We fixed it. We immediately pulled the tool off, and then we told Plaid, like, "Hey, man, this is what happened. All the data was thankfully tokenized, so there was no damage. But they didn't know that. We didn't know that. Nobody knew that. We just needed to
Mm.
plug it. So we plugged it, and here I am. Do we fire this engineer? Absolutely not, man. Why would we? He made a mistake. Let's all learn from it. Nobody puts a public facing tool on a private VPN. Like, that's lesson number 1. But the most important lesson I learned is you need to have a security TXT file in your website, because if security researchers are going to find a bug, they need to know who to contact. And
Mhm.
most startups and most companies do not have a security TXT. So if a researcher who finds a bug wants to tell you, "Hey, I found a bug, you dummy," who are they going to contact? They don't know who to contact. So most security bugs go unmentioned. So having a
Yeah.
security TXT file on your website index that has your name and your contact information has saved me a lot of hassle.
And so he reached out to you because he found the information in the TXT file?
No, he didn't reach out to us because we didn't have a TXT file back then. But now I do, and now a lot of security researchers reach out to me directly.
Okay. I mean, the CTO, when he called you, how did
No,
he
the
get?
CTO from Plaid reached out to me because we have a signed agreement, and my name is the technical contact.
Oh,
So he's like, "You dumbasses,
yeah,
what did you do?"
that's an interesting tip, security.txt. So, One last thing before we wrap up. You've been working recently with Lebanese talent. How's on the engineering side? So, how's your feedback so far? What do you think is the most impressive thing about Lebanese software engineers?
Look, they're great. I wouldn't call it impressive or not impressive. They're good engineers, right? And that should be good enough. We have good schools, we have good engineers, we have sometimes they work on great projects, sometimes they don't, but that's okay. They learn lessons, and it doesn't matter the brand. What matters is they know how to think, they know how to learn,
Right.
and for me, and they know how to communicate. And for me, those three things are the only important thing, and they do great there. The hardest part was convincing non-Lebanese to hire Lebanese engineers. Unfortunately, Lebanon is has a brand, not a very great one. So I'm doing my best, Fadi, to build a different type of brand for Lebanese engineers, and that's the only thing I can do to help Lebanon right now, as someone who's not in Lebanon, is hire more people in Lebanon and give them opportunities that other people won't. I don't know what else to do, man. But they've been great. I want to hire more. I have dreams of hiring another 100 people in Lebanon over the next couple of years, and I advocate for them anywhere I go. And hopefully we'll see more of it. Hopefully there'll be more stability. There'll be better internet. The number one thing Lebanon is missing is good electricity and good internet, and those two things are the only thing that I think the government really needs to work on. Everything else can come, but you need good infrastructure.
We're all hopeful that things are going in the right direction, at least since the beginning of the year. So, yeah, let's hope for the best. And definitely, Lebanon deserves a better reputation. But thank you, and thanks to all the Lebanese expats who are doing a great job linking their businesses to Lebanon in a way or another. Jad, it was a pleasure speaking with you as usual. Thanks a lot. And yeah, hope to see you soon in Lebanon.
Same here, Fadi. Thank you for hosting me, and I'm happy to continue the chat anytime you want, my friend.
Thank you.
All
Have a
right,
great
take
one.
you too.
Bye.